Hi there, welcome to my channel where I take you on tours of unique homes and showcase stories of people living alternatively. In this week's episode, we'll be taking a tour of Ben's accessible self-built house truck. After an unfortunate skiing accident, Ben was forced to change career paths, but that hasn't stopped him on his quest to live life to the fullest. Ben's going to take us on a tour of his incredible tiny home on wheels and show us that no matter what situation you find yourself in, there's always a way to make it work if you're determined. But before we begin, if you like videos like this one, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know every single time we publish a new video.
Hey, welcome to my tiny home. I'm Ben, and this is the Perspectivan. Growing up, I always loved the outdoors. I grew up in Mount Shasta, and it was just like a child's paradise, right? When I was 22, I had a skiing accident. I was a pretty avid skier. I'd been skiing since I was old enough to walk. I took a trip up to Tahoe and hit a little pole and actually completely obliterated two of my vertebrae. So T5-6 vertebrae, in case anyone knows what that is. After the injury, I set off to try to make my life into something without being able to do what I used to do. I did construction before that, and now I was like, well, I'm not going to be doing construction anymore, so what's next? During that time, I had a really interesting experience that I think is not only stuck with me, but it's also really given me a lot of perspective on how lucky I am, and even perspective on just what a blessing life is. I did a lot of camping growing up, and I really always just felt better when I was near the ocean or near a lake or doing something outdoors. And quite honestly, when I was living in a house, I didn't get to do that stuff very often. I would sit at home way too often and have my little bubble around where I live. The reality is now that I am in all kinds of new and idyllic places all the time, and I get to be a little bit of a homebody, which I've always been, and still get to go out and have my home in new places. So this is an old Snap-on truck. The truck had about 114,000 miles on it when I got it. It's got 135 now, so I put about 20,000 miles on it. It's got the 5.9 Cummins diesel engine, the Allison 1000 transmission. So it took me 15 months to build this to the point where I could hit the road. I think I spent somewhere upwards of over $50,000 on hardware and parts and infrastructure to be able to build this, not counting the countless hours of labor that it took to get there. When I was doing the build, I'm like, okay, inside is going to be comfortable and nice and modern, but on the outside, I am not approving a single thing, because stealth was kind of a big idea in my build process. I wanted to be able to park at places and have it just look like a crappy old delivery truck. So it's about 25 feet nose to tail. Got the lift that sticks out another 5 feet or so. Down there I have a little custom body work. It ran over a fire ring in a camping spot. Under here is my 90-gallon water tank. You can just barely see. My diesel heater is mounted in there. It recirculates the air inside to warm it. Down here we've got my city water inlet. And down this side, I'll let you kind of walk it because the curb's here. I have the door, which I actually pretty much almost never open. There's a little bit of storage under there, and there's like my truck batteries and stuff, but there's steps to go in. They call it a step van. It's a delivery truck that has steps on the side. I covered up the steps and put the passenger seat there, so I kind of used that whole piece of floor space because I'm never going to use the steps, so there's no point for me in keeping them. Going down the side, I have a little more storage. I have an air compressor in there, my water hoses, extension cords for plugging in the shore power and all that. And the gray tank is mounted at the very back on the end, 45-gallon gray. So this is a 1,400-pound cargo lift. And I actually got this remote. This is a remote crane operation remote. And I just used the module and hooked it up so that I can go up on a remote. And it's handy because normally these things are on like a tether and you have to hook it up and hold it. And I didn't want to do that. So I did the remote and it's been working out really good. I'm still trying to figure out something to wire to the other buttons though. And I also did this, which is not my greatest piece of work, but I used this winch here. just to fold the lift up, because normally it's a manual fold. And I'm obviously not going to be outside the truck folding it up manually and then jumping in the side door. So I put this winch here and I just use it to lift it up before I drive away, so it's not flopping around back here. Also got the pump going to the outdoor shower here, which it's so hot right now. That was totally a necessary show off. Over here's the bathroom area. This isn't quite finished, but this is intended to be a wet room, so that this whole area can be wet and drain water. I haven't finished the indoor shower yet. I've been using the outdoor shower in other facilities. But the idea here is that you can pull the curtain, have some privacy, use the restroom. So my toilet setup is very something specifically that works for me. I got a seat to sit on and I got a bucket to go in. I went with low tech, easy, cheap. And then for liquid waste, I set up something that is a little strange, but works perfectly for me, and everyone that has had to use it or needed to use it has found it fine as well. It's essentially a beer bong, but I call it a pee bong. And it's pretty simple. It's just a tube and a funnel, and you just drain the liquids down into the gray tank. And for my purposes, it's just handy and convenient. And again, it means I don't have to carry around jugs or try to empty it by sort of manual methods, which for me just wouldn't work. Can you imagine me carrying a jug of pee and spilling it? Bad day all around. I have the kitchen area, which has a sink, stove. I got this nice little cutting board here, which I use actually for a desk, a cutting board, a table. It's kind of just a very handy surface for a lot of stuff. So I do most of my cooking and also use the nice long 9-foot long counter space I've got here. I've got my refrigerator here, which is runs on 24 volts DC power. This was a nice little adaptation I came up with, which is a low drawer. So you see, instead of having a drawer that has a side all the way, I had it cut real low. That way I can reach over and grab things and still utilize this space pretty well. Yeah, over here's my bedside table. I got my little stuffed cow because I love cows. I keep all my remotes here in this little remote holders and kind of work everything from bed, which was another part of my design process. All my lights are on my phone switches, so I can turn everything on and off from my phone. And anything that I couldn't get on my phone has a remote right here, so I can lay in bed and shut everything on or shut it off from bed. And moving over to this side of the van, here I have my other control panel, my Victron monitoring here, so I can see all the power output. The Victron here for monitoring my battery. Here I've got something that I think is actually a really good add that I've not seen in a lot of vans. This is an air cleaner. So I installed this air cleaner with temperature, humidity, and air purification capacity. This is actually one of my favorite parts, and it's such a simple little thing, but it's been such a great piece. I have a wireless charger that I put into the counter here. But beyond that, I also, you need some plugs. So it's got a little pop-up, and you've got 3 AC plugs and then 2 USB plugs just built right in here, which I use that so often it's not even funny. It's just like the simplest thing that has become one of the most valid and valuable, useful parts of the van, just because I wanted to be able to push the button and have it pop up. And it turns out it's just super convenient. The bed itself sits up in the ceiling when I'm not using it, and then I bring it down to be able to lay down. So this kind of doubles as living room and bedroom, depending on what mode the van is in. Okay, moving towards the front of the van, we've got one of my favorite items, which has nothing to do with the van, but it has everything to do with my travels. This chair is called an Omeo, and it really is like the facilitator for so much of my adventures, because this thing can go off-road, it can go off-trail. It's just a real game changer going from a manual chair, which I've been in for a long time, and switching to this, which has really just opened up so much of my travel life. I get to go places I could never go in my manual chair, or probably wouldn't want to even if I could. Seating is everything to me. This chair is very important to me. This chair is very important to me. And of course, this chair is also very important to me because I spend a lot of time in it. I had this chair made for me to spec. It's got heating, massaging, electronic adjustments to everything. When you're sitting all the time, your seating is very important. And I really knew that going into this, so I made sure I had the forethought and the money to be able to do this the way that would work for me long term, and not just make it happen, but make it happen exactly as I needed it to. Okay, now obviously I can't drive a vehicle without hand controls. I can't use my feet for the pedals. So one of the first things I did was to install these hand controls. It took me a couple hours to install, but it made the vehicle useful for me and made me able to drive myself around. And that's kind of an important thing when you live in a vehicle, right? So that was literally, I think, the first thing I did in here, other than starting to pull out some of the old Snap-on hardware that was inside. And took it for a drive right away, and I haven't stopped since. I freaking love driving this thing. It's just so much fun to get in this big beast and drive down the road like you own the road, and it's been fun. And I really also just love the front here because it has windows that wrap all the way around. So when I pull into a camping spot, I try to find the best view. All right, well, this is intended to be the living room space. I got the 2 swivel seats, so I'm able to kind of spin them around and make this still usable space when I'm parked. And this was the idea, because this is, you know, 2 or 3 feet of the van that if you're not using it while you're parked, it's just dead space. I actually can't go into anyone else's van very easily, so I usually end up entertaining and inviting people over. I've also had up to like 11 people in here pretty comfortably because there's so much space. I have people bring their camp chairs over or just sit on the floor. There is not a single seat in here that doesn't serve a purpose for me. Feels good to know everything in here is here for a reason, and that reason is because I need it. Not because I'm catering to other people's needs, because the world isn't catering to my needs and I'm always having to make it work. You want to come in here? You make it work, because it already works for me. Up here I have a Wi-Fi router that works on cell service. It's a PepWave dual SIM card setup. So I have 2 SIM cards running on the T-Mobile and Verizon networks, and it kind of broadcasts Wi-Fi on the hotspot. I have a cell signal booster with an external antenna, which both boosts my hotspot Wi-Fi and also my phone signal, so I'm able to get pretty decent signal most of the time. All right, I'm gonna show you how I convert the bed here. Turn the living room into the bedroom. Now, I also like to think of everything as like kind of dual purpose. I installed an articulating bed frame. It turns out, because I can lift the head or the feet independently, I can level the bed out if I'm parked on a slant and I'm not able to lay down comfortably. I can change the angle of the bed until it is comfortable, and that was kind of a lucky accident, but it turned out to be pretty nice for a van lifer that actually does a lot of sort of stealth and urban camping. It's really nice to be able to park on an angle and have a flat bed anyway. So I can just kind of hop in bed here and be as comfortable as I need. Also, I can pull down the screen, sit back and watch a movie, which is pretty nice. I put the projector right over here and can get a good movie night in or watch whatever I need to do. Again, I have my control panel and all my remotes within reach. So this is kind of my station. I can do anything from here. I can be comfortable here. The only thing I wish is I put the fridge just a little bit closer so I could reach in the fridge and grab a drink from bed. But, you know, maybe on the next build. So when I set out on the road, I didn't quite have everything done, and I'm really excited because recently I got to do some kind of trim work that really, I think, made the van look a lot nicer. I needed metal because I couldn't give up any space to be able to turn around here. So I needed something really thin that would allow me to retain this as a way to spin my chair in every part of the van. That's Millie. She was my service dog for 12 years, and she died, sadly, about 3 months into my van life journey. So we did get to have a little bit of van life time together. and a couple of friends had these done for me because they knew how much I loved her, and everybody that knew her loved her as well. I just really didn't have room for another dog in my heart for a long time because it was just such a big loss. But a few months ago, I had a time and space where I felt like I was really ready and wanted another companion on the road. And so I met this little cutie over here, and she has been quite a handful. She's a rescue from Mexico, and she's had a really hard life. And now she's just a happy little van life dog and gets to follow me around wherever we go, and really loves to learn new commands and listen and be a good girl. And you know, after almost 2 years with no dog and knowing I'm very firmly a dog person, it's been a really nice addition to my van life journey to have a little passenger to ride along with me again. When I started in the van, it was about getting away. It was about finding new points of view, new perspectives. This is the Perspectivan after all, because I wanted new perspectives on life. I am living minimally in my usage of things, in my need for stuff, in my waste, and it's a nice feeling. This is possible no matter what your situation is. I have a pretty extreme physical disability, and I do it alone. Now I know my situation is not the same as other people's, and there may be people who have a lot more severe circumstances or financial worries to do this. But I truly believe if this is something you want to do, there's a way to do it. There's an entryway to get a van and get started. There are ways to make this work no matter what type of needs you have. What I would hope to instill in people is that believing it's possible is the starting point, but actually taking that belief and turning it into a vision of what you want it to be takes faith. It takes a real desire to make it happen. Nobody's gonna make you get rid of all your stuff. Nobody's gonna make you change your life. But if something like this calls to you, if you see me taking this journey and you're like, I want to do that, that is where I want to be, just do it. The right time is if you're feeling the urge to do it, just do it. It might not be easy. It certainly wasn't easy for me. It still isn't. Some days it's so hard. I've had days where I just sit in the van and cry and wish I just had someone for 5 minutes to help me with this thing that I cannot do on my own. But you know what? That was true when I lived in a house too. There is no right time, there is no wrong time, there is no perfect set of circumstances. It's just, do you want it bad enough to do it? And if you do, there's a way, so do it. I believe in you.
Thanks so much for watching this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe, and if you'd like to see another tour of an accessible van build out, check out the links in the description, and I will see you soon with another unique home tour.